Tata Consultancy Services, A System Approach to Human Resource Development by Chris Smith, Vala Renfro, Parker Marks, and Chris Huff. Tata Consultancy Services is not only India's largest IT service provider, which as of October 2007 had reached 100,000 employees, but it is also India's first software service company that was established by a group of older, larger, and well-respected constituents in 1968. Tata Consultancy Services was originally created to fill Tata's need for management consulting, data processing, and other IT services, but by the 1970s, it began soliciting external business on IT development and maintenance to other countries like the US and the UK. In the 1970s and 1980s, TCS would send out Indian programmers overseas to work on short assignments for clients. However, the further development of telecommunications in the 1990s, as well as the abundance of low-cost manpower, made TCS exceed $1 billion by 2003, making them Asia's largest software and IT service company. The growth of Tata Consultancy Services over the past 4 decades has shown advances in computer and information technology that have impacted the global industry and commerce. Over time, the competency of the employees that are hired at TCS have increased by making employees take more complex tasks to adapt to the ever-changing IT landscape. The experiences and knowledge that were gained over the past 4 decades by TCS are what have gotten them to the place they are today.
The problem in this case was that not only did the demand for skilled software engineers exceed the supply, but also TCS was largely unknown in China as an employer. Finding talent has been an issue since the company set up operations in developing countries and started employing the local talent. China needed about 120,000 entry-level engineers per year, but in 2002 had only about 60,000 available. The competition became intense in China for software engineer talent and finding local IT managerial talent. TCS prioritized offering value and cost savings for the client, making inexpensive labor a huge factor in their profitability. By the 2000s, their customers began demanding more localized solutions. They wanted the people helping them to work during the same time zones and speak the same languages as them. In order to participate in the industry-wide trend of nearsourcing, TCS set up operations in mainly other developing countries with lower labor costs in order to maintain their cost advantage. They set up operations in Hungary, Brazil, Uruguay, and in China. This developed their near-market strategy. Now they needed to find a way to duplicate the human capital development model responsible for the majority of its growth over the past decade. TCS relies on skilled, low-cost IT personnel to scale up profitability. The company spent over 6% of its annual revenue on talent development alone. TCS was a results-based company and compensated employees based on skills, experience, and technology.
One solution to these issues is to shift TCS's hiring focus to mainly universities to get the company's image known to young, ready-to-work graduates, transitioning the training program to China, and change the curriculum to include more practical exercises and examples, and initially have experienced TCS consultants to hold managerial roles in China until newly recruited Chinese consultants are ready to take on those roles for themselves. Since TCS is not a highly recognizable business in China, their hiring efforts should be geared towards aggressively recruiting at universities to students who are newly graduated or expect to graduate soon. This preliminary exposure can attract highly qualified applicants and get their name out to students who may be interested in working at TCS in the future. In order for TCS to set the stage for China to be a second base of operations, they need to operate a complete training facility in the country. Having the facility in China will reduce transportation and living expenses and they pay to trainees from outside India and may influence more people to apply since there is no out-of-country training. This facility would also need to provide practical education rather than theoretical to give the Chinese trainees exposure to the work they would be doing. Since the Chinese colleges do not always provide managerial experience to their students, it may be best to hire managers in China from within the organization that already have plenty of experience, and once the newly hired consultants are ready to manage, they can step into those roles. A second option would be for TCS to increase their hiring practices in communities rather than universities, keep a balanced training model in India, and allow the best qualified applicants to hold managerial roles without having been in the company yet. Focusing their hiring on communities can attract consultants who already have experience in this industry to apply rather than recent graduates with no experience. This can allow TCS to change their training to not be heavy on the practical education and possibly shorten the duration of the training itself. Doing this may make keeping most of their training in India at established training facilities a better financial move, since there would be less training needed for these Chinese consultants. Constructing a dedicated training area for their Chinese workforce may not be worth the investment if these consultants already have the experience. Since TCS would be hiring mostly trained individuals, some of these applicants may be ready for supervisor roles, which can have a positive effect on the Chinese consultants, seeing that higher level roles are achievable. A third solution is to hire a mix of newly graduated students and experienced consultants from communities, transitioning the training of Chinese employees to be completed in China and tailored to each individual, and more industry experienced personnel from China can take management roles as TCS expands in China. The most conservative option between hiring from communities or universities is to hire from both. Having a mix of people eager to start working with those who have experience already can be good for growth and diversifies opinions in the workforce. Again, transitioning the training program completely to China can save on unnecessary transportation and living costs, and is essential if TCS wants to make China a second home. Since the workforce will be varied with this new mixed hiring philosophy, training would be best completed if it is tailored to each recruit. To do this, TCS can implement a preliminary exam after the hiring process to test where each applicant stands in their knowledge of different topics like IT knowledge, interpersonal skills, and company procedures. Using this test, TCS can then modify the training program to each individual to ensure they are getting an appropriate amount of training. Lastly, TCS should allow experienced applicants to be eligible for managerial roles after specific leadership and company training.
Best way to resolve the issue. Out of all the three possible solutions, the best option, according to our team, is for TCS to implement the third solution. It provides the best of both worlds approach, since it will be mutually beneficial to both upcoming graduates entering the workforce from the universities in China, as well as tap into the already rich, abundant pool of experienced workers, consultants, and managers from various communities surrounding TCS's second base of operations. It combines the pros from both solutions 1 and 2 without the cons of investing too heavily in a training facility and less overpaying for transportation, living costs for workers outside the country. This is the most conservative option as it serves both the universities and communities while allowing TCS to expand its business footprint in China, which is full of human capital consisting of over 1 billion people and will grow immensely in the years to come as China continues its unprecedented growth as an economic superpower.